the truth is, I died. And the sad thing is, death felt plain. It just felt like switching off the lights. And when I awoke, I didn't know who I was. I felt that I was inside something, a box. And I had the words for what a box was. It's plain I had a mind, but it was also muddled. I was seeing images in my head, like a snake, a dragon perhaps, a wolf maybe, and they seemed to command me, for lack of a better word, and I only felt peace when I allowed them to inhabit my body. And then, the strangest thing I remember was holding my breath as if I had any room to. It didn't feel like there was any air left, but something in me knew to try it. I held my breath and I sucked in the air, and I kept doing it until my chest was hurting, not knowing why I was doing it. But then I felt myself rise. And I was passing through the ground like a knife through butter, like plumes of steam passing through a manhole cover. And I was out in the air, and I was able to breathe blessedly. And I still didn't know who I was, but I felt rage. I felt I knew who had done this to me, that they were surely nearby. And I was excited to try my newfound powers again. And it took longer the next time. I had to realize that holding my breath, it hurt. And as soon as I was in the room, I remembered my origin. Somewhat, I could see myself. I had briefly floated out of my body, and I could see above me this young man sinking his teeth into me. And now recalling, I delighted at the sight, delighted because I knew this gave me permission to do the same, quite without shame. I was beginning to recall who I was, just a touch, like a passing by of a fragrance. The young man, a different one, whose room I entered. He was simply the first door I came across, but he seemed perfect. And something in me told me that he was deserving. The animals, the snake, the dragon, the shapes inside me were beckoning me towards him. The rush, the taste, it was incredible. And then when I had finished, I knew enough that I must leave, and I did so quickly. And next I remember I was somewhere down a mountain path, and I slipped and I fell and I landed on a patch of grass somewhere where there was a small waterfall. I drank. And in the coming light of dawn, it all rushed back to me. Who I was, what had happened. Did I have regret? Somewhat, yes, but that regret made me feel human again. So I told myself, once and enough. But then, having found my way somehow back to civilization, found my way back to my hometown, suddenly remembering my old hiding places, though, ones I'd made so long ago with lingots and jewels, which I used to play pirate as a child with, knowing my parents wouldn't miss them. And I laughed myself silly when I found them. My fingernails were caked with dirt, but funnily not any of it from my untimely burial. I was only a few days before I thought to return to see if I could make things right. But then, the same urge, but stronger. The images again, hungry. How could I interpret them? The more I fought their path, the more I would lose the language in my mind, the more I felt like I would simply become an animal. Feral, vicious, and so I let them lead me where they wanted to go. I knew I was on the path by the clarity of my thinking. So I went to New York.
She happened to me when I was but barely 20 years old. That's about a year ago today. As I celebrate, by myself. All by myself in my favourite least dislikable pub here in Glasgow, which has, I'm afraid, started to feel like home. Even though when I think back to who I was, I reckon I'd never leave my little beloved and hated scheme where poor little grateful orphan me was destined to be destitute. When I wasn't poaching the occasional gig for Sam, the only one who knew me there, really, anymore at the time. The only one who could feel sorry for me in my lot. But now I'm a vampire again. And she's here and gone like a lightning bolt. Like a miraculous angel. Like the Holy Spirit to the Mother Mary. And how grateful I am, more than if I were the second coming. Because we all know that probably doesn't end things well. And in the meantime, I feel good. I feel whole. For the first time in my life, not because I don't have bad dreams still, I do, because... Or because I think I'm less of a piece of shite than I was raised to believe, but because now I know I have time. She told me as much. And I'm going to be able to travel, and I can drink with the best of them, and it genuinely doesn't seem to matter what I eat, which is my very, very favourite thing, I'd say. I like this bar because there's no one that distracting, at least to me. There's often a rugby group that come and they smell horrid enough to calm myself, so when I get a little bit unnaturally peckish, let's say, I haven't. Not once. I've wanted to. Plenty at first. I felt all the rage I've ever felt in my whole life, and it was tempting not to channel it into the... Though I'm not sure how it would happen. I still have a little sick feeling I'd know what to do. But despite her leaving quite rushedly, my fairy godmother, the one who befuddlingly both traumatised and untraumatised me, made me a victim and yet freed me of victimhood. She left me something after she tended to my wounds. Sweetly, like the mother I never had. I have only a tiny bit left. The tall, thin bottle has little notches on it, which I assumed quite rightly were doses. And since I've been taking it, the urge to lose the kind of control I so sorely would like to keep has been dissipating. Of course, when it's gone, who knows? I've tasked to keep the last bit to get it tested. But by whom? Who can I really trust? A laboratory, I suppose, but only those probably cost more money than I have. But then, just now, this young, curly, locked little emo sprite comes in, looking all nervous and cute, and I got a bit flustered for a moment, as I seldom do around boys.
Yes, thank you.
We talked. Where'd you get them? I guess. Then something wasn't right. Killer. My stomach was grumbling. I excused myself, and just as I was passing this big group of toughs, I looked back and I saw something. I saw something in his eyes. And then, as I often do around someone cute, I nearly slipped and fell as the thrum pushed me out the door. By then my stomach was a mess. Something I'd long forgotten was a previous persistent issue with me. I ran to the park across the street, bent over by a bush, but nothing. I was alright. I patted my inside jacket pocket for my medicine. I only had 4 doses left. I decided to take one. It tasted a little different every time. Just the way the sediment was. This time it tasted more chamomile. Like a kind of kombucha chamomile, like with a dash of molassy honey. I watched the young guy come out. I walked the length of the road out of sight as he walked his. He was looking for me, I thought. Hopefully. Just look across, I said out loud. Just look across and I'll come speak to you. But he didn't. Just take one more trip inside, I said out loud. Just go inside to see if I went back in and I'll join you. But instead he kept walking past the entrance and decidedly his body language changed. Not looking for me. Over it. So I gave myself that familiar feeling of rejection. That bitter, stabbing hurt in my heart. I couldn't tell you why. I'd like to say it's the very last time I'll do that to myself. I don't know. Perhaps seeing someone like that might be as inconceivable as it might be, like me, in that moment made me yearn for what it was to be human again. All the heartbreak and company to inevitable loneliness and the disappointment, but the yearning, and almost enough yearning to get a headache from. Or I don't know, maybe I was afraid he would make me feel less special.
I hadn't told Harry everything and wondered why I had not. I don't know why I had not. Something told me that it would send Harry in more of a rage over Dracunin, but this was perhaps wishful thinking, or perhaps an unconscious projection, to use psychological language, that is. I had been thinking much about Dracunin of late, not only since... Why did part of me forgive what he had done? Perhaps this was also his doing. I was sick of analyzing what was this and what was that. I had taken Chang's life. Whether I shared responsibility or not, I did not know. I only knew we had to reckon with whatever he had become. As for the missing time, the scratches on my back, did I want to find Dracunin and force him to tell him what he had done? I did not know. Something told me he was done. Something told me he had wreaked his revenge, if revenge was the word for it. Sick kind of bonding. How you must wish I shared in the same trauma as him with Baba. Every day I checked the little mailbox all the way down by the road, almost an hour's walk. Even the day after Harry had gone. Leona would survey me from above. Balkus would walk me out a few minutes down the hill before losing interest in chasing some butterflies or chewing cross-eyed on some tall grasses. A week gone, still nothing, but a week was nothing at all. I loved walking through the fog. I loved the sudden sprinkling rain, the gusts of wind. I visited the black sheep and their flock. I remembered to feed Leona some blue cheese. I took whatever time Balkus wanted to spend on my lap, spending most of my time making and remaking and cleaning out the furnace so we'd have heat. I thought of the vampire I'd talked to in the pub. I couldn't see in their gaze long enough to quite grasp their origin, but it was unmistakably one. Had they seen my own? Something made me trepidate about finding more at that moment. Could Dracunin have been their origin, or some other vampire we did not know of? There were many vampires who did not seek to be known by others, or so I can deduce by my own needs, my own selfish wants. They also must have, like those that we knew, long have distanced themselves from our original nasty habits, our predatory instincts. Else, they were dead. But it all makes sense if the originator had been sleeping. He had not created more vampires. Previously we had been hunted en masse. Now they were trying to bring us back, with a decided vengeance. Could some have been sleeping, but what was the technology's place in it? Simulating the urge, building an army of the undead. Or was it Dracunin's doing? Inhabiting me, melding our souls so as to create a vampire by force, one darker than we could have predicted. Or was it my magic? by mixing my desire to reach Agatha and the originator.
They part it here, and here, and here. I see now. I see. You rescue her, you rescue him, that's the only way. You close this part of the circle. That allows for an exit here. Only through the most almighty forgiveness.
The boy had said. The boy. The wolf on the beach with Harry, the wolf pup. Who is the boy? What is the boy? When is the boy? You're doing our job, said the voices. Curiously, I had not dreamt of the mysterious boy in a long while now. Probably the phases of the moon, said the voices. Oh? The next morning I took to my path in as thick a fog as I'd seen since being here in the Highlands. Very still, though, not much wind. It was very spa-like. I lost track of Balkis very quickly, Leona as well. I could barely see in front of me. At one point, I saw a shape go by me in the fog. It startled me. I thought then perhaps it was just a tree I didn't remember. I tried not to worry. I was on the level path now. I could see clearer before me. I came upon the mailbox, and there inside was a letter, presumably from Harry. Inside, it simply said,
"The boy is fine. We'll come to you. See if you can get some pasta at market, any kind."
I was expecting to find an intruder back at the castle, but Leona and Balkis seemed unperturbed. I suppose I had time, although perhaps not, even if the mail was sent express. I looked around for my bunny backpack for near a half hour before remembering that I had given it away. I found a plastic bag to do my shopping and took myself back out before remembering I needed money. It had been fortunate that Simon had reimbursed me somehow for the money given at the RUS. I didn't have much, but Harry surely had squirreled something away. I looked in his bedroom. I opened his bedside table, a small drawer. Inside was a locket. My curiosity piqued. Inside the locket I saw the portrait of a woman, a pronounced forehead, painted. On the other side of the locket, in the rusted veneer, a tiny ship. Very curious that I'd never seen such a thing with Harry before. On his bureau was some cash, which I pocketed. By the time I got down the mountain, the fog had cleared. I suddenly had a moment of fright when I passed where the shadow had been, marking that there was no tree there, nothing like anywhere near. I was reassured seeing Leona flying above me, make one more little circle before flying back to the castle. What? Who could it be? Perhaps just a person. We were not so out and far away from civilization after all. I felt a strange phenomena as I came along the little river that led to the village. I was drawn to kneel at the lip of the riverbank and trace with my hand the sand below. I drew, suddenly remembering the boy in the dream. A circle, some lines. The image gave me shivers. What was it in relation to the Ouroboros? Twin, said the voices. I removed the circle with my hands, striking it clean. The primacy of images, had said Parker. What was anyone talking about? I felt sleepy, could have laid my head on some grass on the riverfront, investigated this feeling, but I was tired of nonsense. Ho ho, said the voices. The market had tomatoes, potatoes, some very expensive fresh pasta. I got some olive oil as well, some pepper. Then to make use of a bit of stray sunlight, I sat on a hay bale. I decided to do nothing, what a more modern time would call meditation. What had happened to Agatha back when? If only she could have spoken to Harry, if only she could have spoken to me, I could have asked her. The scourge of trauma is not that it happens to us, but that there isn't someone there to pick us back up, to bandage our wound. Agatha had picked me back up. Agatha had gone and risked her life to be in my life, to be able to always pick me back up. And yet, when she had needed me the most, I was not there. I was looking to satisfy my own needs, and when I was there begrudgingly. Perhaps not unearnestly, but I'm sure sulking more than I needed to. The memory filled me with shame, and this time I could not feel myself replacing it with forgiveness. The voices listened. I sat in the afternoon sun. It was all I could do to not fall into pieces, like I was being held together, held up straight by the warmth of the God-given sun on my vampiric, almost 1,000-year-old body. I counted it as grace. But this did not make me feel much better. Perhaps it was still the mystery. She, indebted and dedicated to Baba, not telling us, or perhaps, I don't know. Was she manipulated by greed, or betrayed, or made to feel that she had done the betraying? There were losses, there were strategies that didn't pan out, humbling to Agatha surely, and so she was isolated purposefully. Perhaps she was closer to greed. Could they have been something romantic? Agatha was ever clandestine with those things. Only a spark could be seen here or there between her and Harry. And Dracunin. Now I saw Dracunin for all his problematic nature. How to trust anything that Dracunin has said, except by his actions. Trusting him as far as I can throw him, as they say. The three of us were talking in private, said the voices. Oh? We just wanted to let you know that we don't have the answers. Not any more than you do. Anyway, if that helps. In a way, yes, I might have said out loud. A woman was watching me across the way. She scowled, looking very Scottish, then went inside, then came back outside, a little embarrassed, like she had forgot a towel drying on a chair. I looked down the village road. Overhead the sky grew dark, dark clouds like that black sheep's coat. I concentrated. The boy was there, only for a moment, standing in the road, then gone. I concentrated again, lightning and thunder. The boy pointed towards somewhere between some homes, then gone. I walked down, looked down between at the alleyway. I walked between the buildings, walked until I was past the village onto a path. Rain. The canopy of the woods I was entering was keeping me dry. I arrived at the grove, a fairy ring of flowers. Soft rain fell between the embrace of the canopy above. Inside, I was astonished to see a rabbit, white, with clouded eyes, then gone, as if I'd almost imagined it, like the boy. Curious. I did not enter the fairy ring. I looked around at the trees that encircled the grove. This must be the Druid's place, what the pub is named after. I was about to concentrate further, but I was growing tired. Also, I had forgotten my groceries. I returned to the village and thankfully they were there, below the awning, not too wet. The rain had stopped. As I walked home, Chang came to mind. What he'd said about us being both black sheep, and yet the black sheep still needs the flock. I made the fire when I got home. Balkis was laying at the ready for its warmth. Leona was frittering around restless until I remembered to give her some blue cheese. I regretfully had forgotten to buy more, so we were running low. I ate some old bread dipped in olive oil. I wasn't very hungry, but I needed something to keep my attention busy. My thoughts were weighted down. I felt too much responsibility for everything. And yet what choice did I have? It helped to have Balkis and Leona nearby. I almost wanted to talk to them about the rabbit. Blind. A blind rabbit. White like snow. White like absence. The opposite of the prima materia. Gods. I heard something outside, a shuffling. Balkis and Leona did too. I opened the closed shutters quickly.
Holy shit!
Someone had fallen backwards besides the house. Hello? The young person got up so that I could see them. I looked down on them slightly, though we were on the ground floor. The castle was elevated.
Hi. So sorry, you must think I'm a robber. I didn't know this place was... Anyway, I wasn't planning on breaking in or anything, just exploring, you know. You. I know you. Christ, it worked!
Yes, perhaps. Are you alone?
Yeah. Almost always these days.
Well, perhaps you can come to the front. It is this way. The first time I saw Agatha's vampire gaze and she saw mine, we were both taken aback. From that day forth, we tried to avoid it, although sometimes inevitable. We would get used to it over time. Had I known that our experience had been different, I would have looked to see, looked to understand, but instead, It was like viewing a famous painting in a museum. Something familiar but that you take for granted. A nothingness and yet a complete encapsulation of where we came from. A mark, a destiny, an origin. Our maker mixed with our urge. I could not see what Agatha saw in me, and she could not see what I saw in her. And we felt that we shouldn't reveal it to the other. And yet, what we had in common was Baba's essence. How comforting that we had come from the same parents, and now we came from the same trauma, or so I thought. When I saw Dracunin, different but the same, the emblematic touch of Baba like an artist's signature, I felt equally comforted, in a way. And yet, when I saw in her eyes, there in the entrance of Harry's castle, in their flannel shirt and slouchy jeans, I did not feel comfort. I felt concern, and even fear. She was still. I could not quite read their expression, but I could see that they saw in me too.
You're...
I know. Yes. What is your name?
I'm Brea.
I am Neto. Will you come in then? I'm sure we have much